been canceled by promoters and venues all over the world, but not tonight.
Is this just pandering? Like, this is where I'm like, oh, well, woe is us and all this stuff. Like, because the belief is that they did know this stuff, but I get frustrated with that because it's like, oh, we're canceling, but not here. And it's like, yay, like cheer for us, kind of thing. I'm like,
hey, welcome to One Life Network, everyone. We need to talk about Michael Tait. A lot of people are, obviously, but also CCM, kind of writ large. And so I wanted to just have a conversation. I know that Will here you said how many videos on it?
I've done 2 videos on it.
2 and plan 3 or 4 more or something like that?
Hopefully not.
Okay. But he's talked about that, and we're going to do I've got an interview I'm going to do with a guy like next week, but I thought we'd gather up and just kind of give some of our reactions because I think all of us are big CCM fans in one way or the other, except for Chris. And but just because I think one of the biggest issues is not only what's happened, but also kind of how that affects us all who have been fans and ministered to by the music, not only the Newsboys, but just DC Talk, right? Isn't that the band that was?
Yes.
Originally the band. That's right. The one that I was a huge fan of.
Yeah.
Your age is showing.
It's going to continue to show too. Yeah, that's right. The DC Talk thing. So, but apparently Newsboys, after a lot of this came to light, they went on stage at, I don't know what the event is exactly, but they did speak to these issues, and it's been garnering some reaction. So we're going to play this and just kind of see what we think. And again, raise your hand if you would like to make a comment.
Last show with us in November of last year, and in January he came to us and he confessed that he'd been living a double life and he wanted to get help. And so he checked into a facility in Utah, and we encouraged him to do that. And we had to ask ourselves, what's next? And we prayed about it, and we all felt that God wanted us to move forward, and we felt like we still had a ministry and a mission to do, and so we continued to move on. And for the last 6 months, we've played everywhere from New York to Florida to California to right here in Arizona, and we have seen the most amazing people and the most amazing crowds, and we've seen the Spirit do things that it's been so encouraging, and we've just had the best time as a band with you guys on the road. And then a couple of weeks ago, our world was rocked by the devastating news about what that confession and what that double life really was. And
I know this is where it gets into the conversation where everybody's kind of openly wondering, okay, who knew what when kind of thing. Right. Like a double life deal, I've seen that happen. People have confessed things, but the theory is that maybe because isn't a report that happened first? I don't know exactly what the chronology is off the top of my head, but
yeah. So my understanding, he came out as saying, "Hey, I've been living this double life," but he implied there was more of a substance abuse type of thing. I think alcohol and drugs, and so like, okay, go get the help that you need, that kind of thing. And then they say they found it out a couple, like when everybody else did. That this stuff came out,
right? And that's where it got into the minors and the accusations of watching rape and all the rest. So okay, so the question becomes, okay, what did these guys really know versus what they did not, right?
We were shocked because in January he had mentioned a few things about substance abuse and some personal struggles he was having at home when he wasn't on the road, but never anything of the magnitude of what we read and what was reported, and never anything ever. He never said anything that could have made us ever think that it could possibly be a danger to others or anything like that. And so it was so shocking to us because it's not the guy that we knew. The guy that we knew that we'd been on the road with, he was our bandmate, he was our brother, and he was a friend to our families, to our kids. We got 14 kids between us, and he was a friend to our families. He would come over to our house and hang out. We'd go over to his house and take our kids over there and watch the Super Bowl at his house because it was awesome. And it's just been devastating for us and our family.
Now, this does get into the questions that people are wondering about, because my understanding is, and again, I'm hoping to do an interview that's related to this, is that sounds I don't want to accuse a guy of lying, but that's where the suspicions are raised, because we hung out with him because I was told, and I don't think I'm the only one, that it was an open secret in the Nashville scene, in the CCM scene, that it wasn't just that the substance abuse thing went on, but I also heard that there were rumors that kind of accompanied his life, that he drank way too much, he had same-sex attraction issues, and then also, allegedly had done some of those other things. So,
well, and that's where, for me, I don't think, call me cynical, but I just don't like woke.
You are cynical.
I am cynical, but what some people call cynical, I call it discernment. So, but there is a part of it where if even someone like Corey Asbury, who is not associated with the Newsboys, like as at least officially, he's like maybe performed at some of the same events with them or something. If even he was like, yeah, people knew that there was stuff going on with the Newsboys in general, that wherever they went, substance abuse oftentimes followed, stuff like that. When other people are saying that around you, I don't think it's so easy for you to just go, we had no idea, as opposed to we knew there were some things, might not have known the extent of all those things.
Right.
But
and is this just during the Michael Tait era? Because from my understanding, the Peter Furler era was okay. Like, I mean, they were up and all that stuff. I was listening to one of the producers.
It's not the first time Newsboys has even had issues with substance abuse and stuff, though, within the band itself.
I don't know.
So
it's not?
No, there's been other bandmates and stuff that have had issues.
Is that allegedly, or is that
allegedly?
Allegedly.
Allegedly, okay. But I didn't know that, because I do at least know of one of them. And
I learn a lot from when I do these videos that commenters who follow these things even closer than I have come in and they start dropping all sorts of information. Sometimes they drop links and everything. And a lot of it seems like it's pretty well known that the Newsboys were known to be partiers, even, is what quite a few people have said.
Well, if you go from just what has been, and you've looked into this a lot more than I have, but if you go with just what has been claimed by some of the victims here, it was a common thing that there would be alcohol on the bus, and that was an open, known thing, according to what the victims have said, and more than one of them, I think. Now, the drug abuse. So is it possible that Michael Tait had a cocaine habit or whatever, and the other guys didn't know about it? Is that possible? Because I think it's probably an open thing that there was some alcohol involved. And then, like, on the same sex thing, maybe we want to wait to talk about that more specifically. But
until next year.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say about that is, like, there are, like, I think we're in agreement here that it's not necessarily a guarantee that if someone who's experiencing same-sex attraction becomes a Christian and repents of that sin or the sin of that behavior or whatever, that suddenly their desires are going to be changed and they're all of a sudden going to only be interested in straight sexual experiences. It may be something in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 6, 9 through 11. It lists off a lot of things there, and fornication, adultery, things like that. We still are tempted with those things as Christians, even after we repent of them, right? If we've ever done them. And so with something like this, I have no guarantee that God's going to supernaturally change someone's orientation, to use the terminology of the day.
Yeah.
But what I do know is that God will give them the ability, the opportunity, the way of escape to overcome that and not do that. Now, I think that we should celebrate those people in the church. So if it were the case that Michael Tait, let's imagine, I'd like to know what you guys think about this. Maybe I'm wrong. If 10 years ago, Michael Tait had said, hey, I've been with the Newsboys now for 5 or 6 years. I just want to come clean about something. I feel like I've been living a double life. And there was no drugs or alcohol, nothing like that. But he said, I do have same-sex attraction. Maybe that's partly why I'm not married. You guys would have expected I'd be married. But I'm going to give that up for the sake of the kingdom. I'm going to live a life that I think is honoring to God. And if you'll have me, I'll keep on singing for the Newsboys. Now, as far as I can tell, I'd be like, amen, brother. That's the right attitude to have.
No, I would agree.
I like
with
the
that.
fact that he says amen, brother, to things.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. I don't get that as much as I used to.
I'm a loudmouth, leather
I know
lung,
it, and it's awesome.
red-faced
I love
preacher.
that. Yeah.
Well, that's where, for me, again, I think that's true, where if somebody has those same-sex attractions or whatever, it just saying like, hey, I'm forsaking my desires for the kingdom. That's what we're all called to do, so forsake your desires for the kingdom. I think that's a very different conversation, obviously, than what was transpiring behind the scenes. And then you have someone like Haley Williams from Paramore is like, well, the reason why is because the evangelical church condemns LGBTQ issues. And that's, of course, no amount of your attractions even gets close to justifying that sort of behavior.
Yeah, what it ended up being. So I think there's kind of the two half things. So they're responding to the initial thing, and that probably was the same-sex thing, and also the drug abuse and all that. But and then the revelations came out about the abuse and the minors and all those things. That gets into a completely different territory. Let's.
It felt like our names have been just dragged through the mud because of all this, and it's really, really hurt our kids. And as a result of all this and the things that have come out that he's done, that he's confessed to, we've been dropped from our record label. We've had radio stations pull our music, and we've been canceled by promoters and venues all over the world, but not tonight.
Okay, so this is where it's like, okay, is this just pandering? Like, this is where I'm like, oh, well, woe is us and all this stuff. Like, because the belief is that they did know this stuff, but I don't know. I get frustrated with that because it's like, oh, we're canceling, but not here. And it's like, yay, like cheer for us, kind of thing. And like, that's where it feels a little disingenuous to me. Like,
and that was some of the reaction that I've seen, and you know, you can look in the comments where we pulled some of this stuff from. So, and that becomes the question though. Like, okay, I feel for these guys because that's what they do for a living. That is their life, and their careers could be completely over, and that would be a very devastating thing. You mentioned his kids, but they did get tagged off base for not mentioning the victims. The true victims that went on. So that was probably a misstep at the very, very, very
They
least.
kind of seem like the victims here as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people are just saying, okay, well, we really shouldn't be worrying about you. What are you going to be doing for those who were abused, as it were?
All right. Now I'm the cynic going to be fair. They also, in their official statement, did say we are praying especially for the victims, and like are there. So they have made.
They did. Okay.
In their official statement months ago, when it first came out, when they did a written statement.
Right.
Here, I think they were just talking to the crowd. So when people, I also have an issue not only with Christian celebrity culture, but I have a problem with Christian cancel culture. I do have an issue with that. Where let's say it comes out now. Of course, I'm the cynic who goes, you had to have known something, maybe not to the extent,
Right.
but. Let's say they didn't know. Let's give them the grace to say that what they're saying is true. They have no idea. Well, if that's the case, then I do take issue where we just go, well, we have to end these other dudes' whole career. However, this should be a warning to everyone that your sin can have nuclear level consequences that impact all sorts of people around you.
Yeah, and here's the question. So I'm the person at home watching us right now on my phone or whatever. Is it logically possible? Like, is there any contradiction? Is it logically possible that these guys really didn't know anything about let's say, the illegal activities that were happening? Is that, I think it's logically possible. Yeah. And so then here's the next question. So I don't want to throw them out. And normally what I would do with an issue of a claim of some wrongdoing in the church is I might just be like, okay, well, then I don't have a way to know. So my brother's telling me this, I'm going to go with it until I know different, except that the possibility that they did know holds a little more weight when you consider the fact that it would mean that they were in some way running cover or trying to hide someone who is doing actual harm to people in an obvious way. And it becomes somewhat like, people in, denominational heads or church circles where the pastor or some deacon or somebody kind of hides what this guy's doing. It kind of feels that way, and it is that way because they're allowing it to continue because they don't want the party to end of we are one of the biggest bands in Christian music. But so I think I would normally give them a pass, but given the gravity of this, if they knew, I don't know, man.
Well, and typically that's where organizations, churches, the Catholic Church had that. A number of churches have had it. It's their handling of the thing itself.
Right.
That always messes people up. And I've been in situations where I was on boards where we had sticky situations like that to deal with. What do you do? Because it does go through your head. Man, this comes out. We're all going to go down, and your first temptation is to kind of hide it. But I remember we picked up the phone, called the police. So, but you go through that thinking of, what kind of price are we going to have to pay, that kind of thing. So Yeah, I'm willing to throw. That's really neat. You're willing to throw him that grace. Way to go. It's well, Chris, to know
I'm
it's there. So
I'm cynical. I'm not, you know,
not completely hard-hearted, right?
yeah. It's like, well, it's not a whole thing where I'm like, really though. But it's
Right.
like what Braxton, like you said, I have to give at least where I'm like, they've said this. I kind of mentioned this even in my own videos, which was I'm cynical of all this stuff essentially. However, we can only have the information that we have available to us, so I'm allowed to be suspicious while also taking you in grace, going, okay. But if something comes out, I won't be surprised.
Well, okay.
Yeah. You won't shock me.
So in their defense, I did have a close friend and somebody I worked with that had an affair. And I remember afterwards, somebody else that worked with us was like, how did you not know this? Like, how did you, I was like, well, because he lied. Like, I mean, we
Wait a minute.
we
People
asked
do
him,
that?
we asked him about this and he just straight up lied. And so that, like, I have a friend's like, you can't get around lying. Like, I mean, you've built trust with this person and then you ask them about things point blank and they're like, oh no. And there's a logical explanation. And you're like, oh, okay. Well, thanks for telling me. I trust
There
you.
was always this culture of you need to be in an accountability group, which
Yeah.
is true. I believe that to my toes. But they act like
That only goes so far.
Yeah, they work if everybody's telling the truth.
Right.
Well, Chris, when I was first started doing like those small groups here at the church and everything, Chris was like, "Hey, there's these accountability cards," and he showed me his, and it goes through all these accountability questions. I got them all made up, almost the exact same ones that Chris showed me from that you had back in the day.
Yeah.
And the last question on that accountability card is, "Did you lie to me?"
Yeah, and here's the thing
You
about
don't know which
that.
question they lied about.
I've
but-
thought
That's
about
right.
this quite a bit because I think about Joseph in the Old Testament, and Joseph is there with.
Two scriptures, man, and an amen, brother.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I'm
Two
just-
scriptures
I'm
and an
impressed.
He
brother.
thinks he's so holy.
But Potiphar's wife, Joseph is now working for like a guy who is way up the food chain in Egypt, and here is this probably beautiful woman. For a guy like that would probably have a beautiful woman as his wife, and she is trying to get Joseph to go to bed with her, and he's a young man at that age, if you run the numbers, and full of hormones and everything else. And he needs an accountability partner. Well, the closest people of God are like miles and miles away. He's here alone, and God was the accountability partner he needed. Now, that's not to say that it's not good to have accountability partners, but it's not a guarantee. It's just another layer of defense, because if you get these, what are they? I don't know the brand, and they're not sponsoring us anyway, but that's like helps you share with an accountability partner. Yeah, Angel Eyes or whatever it is. Yeah, and
Covenant Eyes.
and Covenant Eyes. Yeah,
They are
looking
sponsored.
We're looking at you, Covenant Eyes. But Covenant
Sponsor
Eyes.
us.
Me and Chris both have Covenant Eyes. Let's say we don't, but if we did, maybe we should, and we can share with each other. But I can always find a way out of that or around that if I want to. And I might think something like this, like I really am committed to this, but I don't want to be the first one that admits that I messed up. And he hasn't admitted that he messed up yet. So I'll just tell him that I didn't mess up. It's like
Sure.
you can always find another way around. And I always look to Joseph and I'm like, Joseph didn't have anybody around him. He just had God. And that was enough. Ultimately, it's going to come down to your commitment to God.
Well, and what happens too, and I'll throw some grace their way.
Yeah.
If you get to know someone, you believe the best about them. Even if you start an accusation started coming towards me about you, and my first reaction if somebody came, that Chris guy, he did X, Y, and Z. Well, I wouldn't believe it. I'd be like, nah, that's not a thing. And I know you get in trouble for saying that. I don't believe someone, but the reason you don't, it's not because you don't think someone's viable. It's because the person that's being accused, you only know as a good friend. That would have happened to you in your case. I had the same thing happen with me. I looked at a friend directly. This guy I knew most of my life, looked him straight in the face. He said, no, I have not. We found out he did later, but it was hard for me to believe he did because he's my friend and we were in ministry together and the whole bit. So there's
with
at least
Michael
some plausible
Tait,
deniability there.
Good night. Michael Tait, I've always thought of, like, I was always more of a Toby Mac fan when you go back to the original DC
too.
Talk.
Yeah.
And I think Kevin Max, even though he's not nearly as popular, probably
Kevin
was
Max
the
had the
most,
best voice.
he was
in
probably
all.
the
Craig.
most talented,
Awesome,
I think. Of the. But Michael Tait was the one I thought of as probably the most spiritually minded, probably the most mature. I would have put Toby next. I mean, I really thought that. And maybe when I was into him, he was, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So it's just, I would have gotten that completely wrong.
Yeah. Well, and But a buddy of mine that knows him said, he was probably the most charismatic person you ever met, and everybody liked him just because who he was. Just everybody, he walked in the room, he made you feel great, and all the rest. So they would have been piled up with all that, and knowing that. Now I want to do one thing. I want to go back to the thing here, and then I want to close up with kind of addressing a bit of a question here. It might just be all cheering.
Yeah, I think.
Not in my home state, not by Brian Cole and Extreme Faith Productions, who steal things in Newsboys.
Okay, so there you Ron a little bit right there. Okay,
never mind.
So my question is, and we've encountered this in church. I've gone through this more times than I can count or want to talk about. I had a very good, very, very good friend. Fall had a guy I looked up to that mentored me through everything. Fell, and in the music world, especially if you're a fan, they really ministered to you. How do you react when you hear double life? Especially, it's one thing to fall, but it's another thing that this went on for years. And how would we coach people to process all this stuff without being completely cynical like Will? It should end up that way.
This is what happens, man. Years, it gets you jaded.
Then you,
What my thing is I think one of the biggest contributors to this issue, and I've said this on my first video about it, this Christian celebrity culture, the idea of even having Christian kind of celebrity types is a problem. Like, be careful who you put up on pedestals, because at the end of the day, Michael Tait's just a dude who now has fame, money, and all those things. Right. So now he has access to more things, more temptations, probably even than you. So considering the fact that you have to make sure we're not putting people up on pedestals, that's one of the things I'd pastor anybody to do. Like, hey, it doesn't matter if you love me, okay? I will fail you. I will fail you. I'm going to do those things, and I'm not a perfect person. And that's a big thing for people to understand, that even these great spiritual mentors aren't perfect people. So, take it,
including biblical characters.
Yeah.
I don't know whether or not Michael Tait is actually a born again Christian or not, but I will say, if we went by fruits, it's there's a lot to look at there. But here's what I'm saying. Here's what I do want to emphasize is that if you look at the biblical characters, aside from maybe Joseph, who we've talked about, and Jesus, you're looking at a cast of characters who all have huge moral failings, or most of them have huge moral failings. And so even the Bible, in the characters it provides to you as heroes, it's giving you a picture of, people are going to do incredible things and inspire you and make you into a better person and speak into your life. But remember, they're not your master. Ultimately, God is your master. Jesus is your king. That's who you ultimately look to for the predictable, stable example. But I don't think it means that, if there's a song, that Michael Tait wrote or whatever, and God used that means that there wasn't something valuable in that for you at that time in your life.
Or that you can't play it on the radio. Like the radio's pulling their song. You're like, why?
All truth is God's truth is what it's like.
So, but then you got to go back to David. Well, David, he did some things in the Bible. And so you're like, okay,
did he write the 23rd Psalm on the pre-side of the Bathsheba thing on the post side?
At what point are we canceling the book of Psalms?
Right, I know. Right. David wrote it. He cheated and killed a guy.
Well, but we are in a little bit of danger here because that's been kind of a cultural thing. There's an opposite part of this too, that it wasn't just somebody slipping and falling. It's lead a double life and doing something that he probably ought to go to jail for.
Probably, yeah.
If he really
allegedly
did these things. Yeah. It's kind of next level. I always wondered about that. Like we all stumble in many ways, the Bible says. I got one in. There you go. But at the same time, the double life really out there kind of thing, I can see how somebody would just be like, throw their hands up in the air and go, forget this mess.
Well, I mean, this is why a lot of people now, like a lot of the comments I was getting is a lot of people just completely disenfranchised with the CCM movement because so many, even Kevin Max, like he's now agnostic, and there's so many people have completely fallen off the wagon.
He's ex-evangelical. I don't know how
which
far
is
he takes that.
So cringe. Anyway,
but
cringe. That whole awesome. I am.
It's funny because all the people that rejected CCM music in the 90s because it was cringe, although they didn't use that word then, now they're all doing like a very cringe thing. It's like the ex-evangelical.
Well, this is why
a deconstructed.
This is why everyone should just listen to Christian metal and just rock out.
It's not popular enough for us to even know if they have scandal.
That's the answer. Because I had her, and I knew a guy that was in the Southern gospel world, and he had stories. I mean, it's not just rock music. It's not just hip hop, Christian. It is a culture. If you get out on the road, and you said they were groupies and the whole bit when Southern gospel, for crying out loud.
It's human nature in many ways. And once you're on the road, accountability measures really start disappearing. I mean, this is why when we do missions trips, even here at the church, we have multiple things that we walk people through and multiple rules on mission trips, because once you're gone overseas and you have a small group with you, the accountability becomes a lot more difficult overseas. So all
stories.
Strong accountability measures have to be in place. And there has to be ways that the teams and people know that people that they can approach regarding these issues. If there's a problem that's going on, who do you go to? Who do you talk to? And what are the accountability measures being put into place? That's what people want to know.
And I know, like, because the late 90s, early 2000s, Christian music was the best. And
Amen.
Outside of the CCM.
It's not even remotely true.
Oh, yeah, it was. Newsboys, Take Me to Your Leader, Bloom by Audio Adrenaline, 500.
That's for audio journalists.
Every album 500 Frenzies put out. But a lot of those, like, kind of not CCM bands had pastors. Like, they had people that would travel with them that, like, helped them with those things and stuff like that. And so you almost need that, I think. The accountability. Again, you can lie and all that stuff, but there's like those measures in place that you put, because we have to have that. And 500 Frenzy, the greatest Christian band of all time, their lead singer like wouldn't sign autographs. He's like, don't ask me to hold a marker and you scribble or whatever. He's like, I'm a normal person. And I think he had to do that to stay humble, because he knew, like, the other people would sign autographs and stuff like that. But he personally was like, I know that his tendency is, I will get this fame in my head and be crazy with it. And
well, that brings up a very good point. We talk about this around our office, and I've learned this the hard way many, many, many times through watching close friends and mentors and everything, is that you really do have to, accountability is not just kind of sitting around and, did you do all the things you said you didn't do? It's more about watching your life and the situations you put yourself in, like literally. That's why you're not allowed to meet with someone of the opposite sex without other people around, and doors closed and all that sort of thing. What I call the stupid rules aren't stupid at all. And you really do have to do that. And there needs to be road versions of that, because if you've got 10,000 people telling you you're awesome every night and you're wonderful, you're liable to start believing it. And then you put yourself in danger, and that would be horrible.
Well, in the Christian celebrity culture, it's hard not to, like, if you're doing the Lord's work. I mean, Jesus was a Christian celebrity, I would say. Like, it wasn't Christian. But he had crowds that followed him everywhere.
That's true, yeah.
But he got alone. He stayed with his close group of friends, and like, there was a humility about the way that he lived. And I think that's what, like, we should chase humility in the midst of all that stuff. Actually, Carey Nieuwhof had a great, it's like a 6-minute clip on like Christian celebrity culture. He's like three things that are good about it and 3 things that are bad about it. And so, but one of the things he's like chase faithfulness, not fame. And so like when you lose that humility and you're like, oh, people love me, I'm famous and all that stuff. It's like, well, because we don't make these videos so like 2 people watch them. We want a lot of people to watch them, but it's not so that.
By the way, like and subscribe, please, because we're not after the fame, but it would help if you want to go ahead and do that.
Check out Trinity Radio and the Church Split as well. But
should we all name our favorite Newsboys song? Do you have a favorite
news? It's. I'm losing the name of it. We used to do it all the time. He Reigns. That's one. We used to do it. We used to sing it in church and play. I played it. I played the music of it. So
got one, Chris?
I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's When You Come Back Again. Would you bring me something from the fridge? Heard a rumor that the end was near, and I just got comfortable here.
The cereal song? Is it the cereal song?
It's on that album.
My favorite song is God Is Not a Secret to Be Kept.
God Is Not a Secret to Be Kept. Yeah, dude. Early Newsboys.
It's Toby Mac. I mean, let's say it. All right, we're about out of time here, but now, first of all, Will has done his videos on the Church Split. I'm going to be interviewing a friend who's in the industry coming up real soon, and
stuff.
Anytime you need good
Trinity Radio,
Baptist, amens, and all the rest, check out Braxton. Hopefully that was helpful, and there'll probably be more rolling out. It'll be interesting. Pray for these guys, and just pray for wisdom all around for everybody involved, and that the right thing is done, and that we all respond correctly. Hope that helped. See you next time.